Good morning and welcome to Today in LA. My name's Mike Amos. He's Bill Rice Jr. As we start a Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday, Rice. But every day is Friday for you. Is that right?
It seems that way. I say Saturday. Every day's Saturday.
Yeah, exactly, no question. And of course, now you got to find some things to do this weekend. And of course, it's going to be a wonderful weekend. It looks like good weather, and you know, we've had great weather lately. You know, I say that I was out. I'm soaking wet this morning. If you ever see me soaking wet in the morning, it's because I've been fooling with my water sprinkler system. Good morning. How you doing?
Hi, morning.
Where you going? Where you calling from this morning, please, sir?
Beautiful Grayton Beach, Florida.
Well, why you throwing that in our face? Let me ask you this. Me and Bill Rice are sitting up here in Troy, Alabama. You trying to throw the beach in our face?
Sorry, I'm not on Zoom today. I'm sure views and fans will be down tremendously.
Well, look, we've got a whole box full of letters, cards and letters. Want to know who that good-looking guy is, and that he should have a razor blade commercial.
Yeah, I plan on growing the beard out for a good while now, so there's a lot more for the fans to see coming down the road.
Yeah, of course, Rice 6'3", 210 out of Troy, Alabama. I saw Bill's mom and daddy at the game Saturday. I love these potato chips, these golden flake potato chips. We're gonna have them, and of course, give me my bottle of Coca-Cola. Brought to you by Golden Flake Potato Chips and Coca-Cola, the Bear Bryant Show. And here's Coach Bear Bryant. Coach Bryant, how'd your team play Saturday?
Well, Charlie, we slopped around a little in the first quarter, but the boys came on and played hard in the second half, and I want to commend our opponent, Tennessee Chattanooga, played very hard. They got some fine young men, and they got a great
You're
coach.
right, Coach. The hospital was full of them Saturday afternoon after the ball game. In fact, I went up there and saw Bill Rice, his mom and daddy. Bill got shaken up a little bit in the game. And so Coach Carney Lassie, who's in charge of our sick bay, says we got about 12 more beds that we can put these Alabama players in. But the partisan across the way, Coach Bryant, was awfully pleased with you Saturday.
Well, you know, listen, again, all the credit to the young men. We got one, but we got a big one coming up, Charlie. Got a big one coming up. We got Mississippi State this week, and they're going to be ready for us.
Yeah, those Cowbells, Coach. What do you think about those Cowbells, Coach Bryant?
They're loud, but, you know, I've been hearing them, Charlie, since I've been here. You know, I played here a while back, and they had those Cowbells back when Coach Thomas was coaching.
Coach, I know you smoked Chesterfields, and today's show is brought to you by Chesterfields.
I'm not proud of that, Charlie.
And, well, I'm going to give you an ashtray, Coach, and also, if you don't mind, Coach, blow your smoke the other way if you don't mind.
Yeah, we had breaking news on Troy Cable yesterday where John Ramage made a claim I'd never heard before, Bill, that Bear Bryant and Mary Holman were actually married in Brundage. And Coach Bryant didn't let anybody know, apparently, at Alabama because he was still playing. And when you were married back then, you couldn't play.
I can see the sign right now. Welcome to Brundage, home of Mary Harmon Bryant.
You know, I'd heard that, and that's true. That he hit it. I'd always heard that. I remember reading somewhere that they might have gotten married in Ozark, but it might have well been in Brundage.
Yeah. In Brundage.
And I'll tell you, Mary Harmon Bryant Black, you know where she's from, don't you? Originally.
Banks.
No,
Troy, she's from Troy. Yeah, that's right. I keep
her
getting her
family.
mixed
She came
up.
from a prominent family in the.
Annie, I
in
knew
Troy.
Annie.
Now she moved as a child to Birmingham, but she was born in Troy.
Yeah. You know, Annie was her cousin. Is that right?
Yeah.
Annie Harmon, and of course she was a school teacher for such a long time. And yes, before long you're gonna see a bill on the billboard. Welcome to Brundage, home of Mary Harmon Bryant. And I'm just having fun, Jimmy Rabbit.
That's one of the reasons I'm pushing for the Troy Alabama game in Troy, because who's the power that be in Tuscaloosa besides Nick Saban? It's Paul Bryant Jr.
Paul Bryant Jr. No question.
And well, Paul Bryant Jr.'s mama was born in Troy, and
Right.
she loved Troy. And Coach Bryant used to always talk about that on his
Well,
TV show.
I'm
When
gonna tell
Dad
you-
played from Troy, he would always mention, brag about Troy because his wife was from Troy.
You know, when Crow Hill
You
first,
know, we have huge news in college football breaking yesterday.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
this is not a good sign for a football season or what a football season is going to be like. The Big Ten has already come out in July. What is it, July 9th? That came out yesterday. It said they're only going to play conference games. So what in the world? How can you come to a decision that quick?
they say they were following the Ivy League. They were following the Ivy League.
No, the
Well,
Ivy League's not going to play at all. The Big Ten's talking about just playing, conference games.
yeah, that could hurt Troy. That would do away with Tennessee game, the North Carolina State game. Those would be two big money games for Troy.
I mean, the thing is, like if you would have said, you're just going to be able to play Big Ten games and then teams throughout your state that are Division I. If you come up with something like that, but now, that does hurt Troy tremendously.
If it's followed up by other conferences, yeah. That would
You're talking about the Big Ten. The Big Ten is such a weird league now, though, because now you got Nebraska, you got Maryland in the Big Ten. Can you imagine a trip from the Big Ten where teams like Nebraska got to go to Maryland?
Oh
How
yeah,
long of a trip that would be?
you're right. Oh, I sure hope this is not the case. The SEC shouldn't have to follow anybody anywhere, and that's hey, listen, that hurts teams like Troy and Southern Mississippi and people like that. But at the same time, it hurts Alabama. Just think of the millions of dollars in revenue they would be turning down.
Yeah,
I'll have to read the games now that already are not going to take place with the Big Ten doing that yesterday.
Well, did you also read, Michael, that it's rumored that the Pac-12 might follow suit, and if they do that, the Alabama-USC game is off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then do you have the TCU game come back into play because that's already been talked about before?
Yeah, I still say that they ought to wait till November to start the season, and then have the playoffs in the end of the 1st of July. Excuse me, 1st of January. Start playing your bowl, not your bowl games, but your playoff games.
We've talked about this every day for weeks because we're all interested in it. And I just vacillate back and forth, Mike. One day I think, there's no way they're going to cancel college football. It's too much of a moneymaker. And then, like today, I say, well, some schools are going to cancel it all the way, and then some are going to cut back significantly. I guess we'll know in about 2 or 3 weeks for sure.
And they ought to.
Here's the big games that are not going to happen. Michigan was going on the road to play at Washington on September the 5th. Ohio State had a trip to Oregon on September the 12th. Boy, that would have been a great game. Michigan State's home game against Miami on September 26th won't happen. Wisconsin's contest against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field on October 3rd. How fun would that have been to watch? All those games are no longer.
Oh, that's terrible.
So that affects all those other teams. What are they going to do?
I think they've opened up a can of worms.
What about television?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is
There's
just
big ripple effects. You're right.
it's gonna have a huge ripple
You
effect.
got all these other small schools that are affected. You got Ball State that was going to play. A lot of Big Ten teams, Bowling Green, BYU, Central Michigan, UConn, Northern Illinois. Bowling Green's athletic director, Bob Moosberger, said that the Big Ten's decision is just the tip of an iceberg. So we'll see what happens
But
next.
is it a done deal? Is it a done deal yet?
Oh, yeah. They
Signed and sealed. Signed and
Yeah.
sealed.
They wouldn't have made an
They wouldn't have
announcement.
if they wanted a done deal, because you're affecting television, and you're talking about tons, millions and millions of dollars were
Yeah.
affected by them doing this. Now it depends. I still can't see how many games they're going to play in the Big Ten. If they play, 10 or 11 games in the Big Ten against Big Ten competition, if you're Ohio State and you go undefeated playing all conference games, they deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Exactly right. Need to be wearing your mask, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this news. It's not funny. It's going to affect a lot of schools, especially the schools like Troy, who plays North Carolina State at home, and also plays Tennessee on the road. Those would be the only two games that I think it would hurt Troy, really, financially, I think.
Yeah, they're already saying what could have been. I left out a few other games. Iowa State at Iowa, of course, that's a huge rivalry game. Penn State at Virginia Tech would have been a big game. This would have been a big game for Sunbelt. Appalachian State at Wisconsin.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Cincinnati at Nebraska, so that's a few more games that what could have been. And we're at July the 9th when they made this decision. I mean, you're talking about football is still almost 2 months away. I mean, they must know something we don't know. Somebody out there.
Evidently, and of course, man, oh man, well, if they do this, and I hate it because I'd love to see North Carolina State come to Troy, but if they do this, would you think the season would start earlier or later?
I would think later now, because normally you would play conference games usually sometimes late September. That's what would make me think that now they're going to delay the season to start as well.
And you know what this could be leading up to is what everybody is always worried about is the major conferences are called, these super conferences. People sitting back and say, gosh, we're going to do this. Why don't we set up a super conference with the top, say, 30 or 40 teams being in the same league?
Yeah, I've always heard 60 teams.
There are 60 teams, yeah. There are 100 right now. There are about 127, I think, Division I-A teams. But
it came out yesterday. SEC league officials, athletic directors are scheduled to meet early next week, but have no plans to make any decisions on a fall schedule. Alabama's athletic director, Greg Byrne, came out yesterday and said he still plans on playing USC to start the season in Dallas.
Yeah.
So
you're right. You got Jerry Jones and Nick Saban looking at you with blood in their eyes.
I would, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would say that I would bet that the Alabama USC game is not going to happen. I think the obvious possibility substitute game is what Mike's talked about, a TCU game. But if I was Alabama, I wouldn't want to go to Dallas and play TCU in their backyard when not many of your fans are going to travel with you anyway.
Yeah.
And so I get to, is Alabama going to need a game on September 5th if they want to start their season? And then who would that game be with?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, when it's all said and done, I mean, do the conferences make these decisions? I mean, the actual university can't decide if they want to play and take the risk, or do they have to go along with the conference? That's something I would like to know today.
The conferences must have all voted, the athletic directors, and then, whatever they vote on, they got to stay together as one group.
This is already just unbelievable. I can't believe they're making decisions this early.
Well,
I thought you see something like this maybe in August, but not early July.
Well, let me just say this.
Now you got to print up tickets, and there's tons of logistic things that go on and planning for, like you mentioned, TV deals. You got to give people enough lead time in front so you got to make these decisions early.
Yeah.
But the big schools like Alabama, I know, has their own jet. The university, they don't have to go, to an airport. They would just fly out of Tuscaloosa. I imagine Auburn probably flies out of Montgomery, or maybe they fly out of Auburn. I don't know. But all these big universities, they don't have to deal with airports.
Auburn flies out of Montgomery.
Yeah, they all go on chartered airplanes. So, I don't get the travel deal. What's the big deal about if you travel for 1 hour or if you travel for 4 hours? Who cares?
And I tell you what, let me tell you this. Any kind of travel, airplane or bus travel, can you see a 340-pounder trying to stretch his legs when I can't stand, I see people 150-pounders having a hard time getting in their seat.
The only scenario I can see is they're saying, all right, we're playing these small schools. They haven't tested their players as much as us, so a lot of their players might have COVID. In a 3-hour football game where you're smashing each other every play, some of their players are going to give some of our players COVID. And then our players, I guess the logic would be on the airplane ride back are going to start giving it to all the other players and coaches. That seems far-fetched to me.
I'm just looking around for some. Of course, it is Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday, and I'm watching the only thing to watch on TV, of course, is golf right now, and they don't seem like they've missed a beat. What do you think?
I think we haven't made enough of it. Is that they canceled the gallery and the fans at the memorial.
Yeah,
that was going to be the one I was looking at. That if they play that with fans and the sky doesn't fall, that would open the door to other sporting events with fans. But now they have changed that position, and that tournament's going to be played, but like all the other ones, without fans.
I'll tell you this, and of course, we're hoping that we'll have a full slate. But hey, I'd rather have a conference schedule than not have anything. What do you think?
I totally agree with that. But I mean, if they're already doing this, I mean, who's to say what they're going to do next? For us, if they're going to go ahead and, a month later, just go ahead and cancel it all. Yeah. It's not a good sign they're canceling anything to me.
I always say look at history for your guide for the future. And as you know, in 1918 we had the Spanish flu, and I've looked at it. Some schools played football that year, some did not play football that year. Some schools had an abbreviated schedule compared to what they'd had previously. So it was a mix. It was almost, so maybe if history repeats itself, it'll be that way this year. You'll have some teams that do not play at all, some that usually play 12 games that play 10 games. Alabama did not play football in 1918. Several schools didn't play. I'm not sure about Auburn, but most schools did play football in 1918.
I want to mention Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram trucks. Ladies and gentlemen, they've got a sale going on with their 4th of July Plus sale, and you're not going to find a better deal. You're not going to find a better deal. You're not going to find a better deal. Something's wrong with that guy, isn't he? You're not going to find a better deal than the one you can get at Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram trucks. Looking at pro basketball, there's a picture in the advertiser today. Now, he's locked in right there to COVID-19 virus. Look at that, how close they were. They're starting to practice. The pros are starting to practice, and there's a picture in the advertiser today of a lot of up close action. But hey, basketball. All right, there's a penalty, and they're gonna penalize them every time. They're gonna call it a penalty every time that player is within 6 feet, more than 6 feet away. He can guard him at least 6 feet away, and the rest of the time you won't be able to give him a long three-pointer. But could you see that? It'd be a violation. You're too close. We go the other way. And blow the whistle. No, that's not a charge. That is a too close call. Point the other way.
I love that.
My big question is also, these great players are already projected to be first-round picks. I mean, you play an abbreviated schedule. I mean, how do you not go to your coach and just say, "Hey, coach, I'm going to sit this out," and just hope for the best, because the NFL doesn't care if you play or not.
Yeah.
If they already projected you to be, like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, almost 99% chance he'll be the first pick in the NFL draft. I mean, you don't think his family's going to say? I mean, especially if you can't play for a conference championship or you can't play for a national championship. I mean, all that's still out there. But if they changed all that, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
You would have to have a guarantee that there's still going to be a playoffs, and you got a chance to win a national championship, even if it's just 8 games.
Yeah. And then you think about quarterbacks or running backs. You presented the scenario where you'd have 6 or 7 players a week that have to sit out because they've tested positive. Well, that might be some of your key offensive linemen that you're going to be playing without. So your risk of injury or performing badly is going to be good.
But right now, Rice, and I hate to tell you, Rice, this thing is leading to an all-mask day for everybody. It's leading that way. where everybody has to wear a mask.
I listened to Trump last night, and he had like that was not going to be the case. He was not going to do mandatory
It's going to be.
Well, Trump can't do anything really on that. He says he thinks he can, but it's the governors and the mayors that have the authority to demand that.
And then, of course,
I mean, how could the president say you got to do? Who would enforce it? In other words, there is no federal law enforcement. The City of Troy Police Department would have to enforce that and give you fines, but they don't work for the U.S. government. They work for the City of Troy.
There's an outside chance now. This would be crazy, and especially if fans weren't able to go. But on September the 19th, to open the football season, Alabama, Georgia, in Tuscaloosa, with no fans on September the 19th. How crazy!
Whoa! But it'd be a huge game, though. Golly.
I mean, trust me, I'd rather watch it on TV than
me too. Me too. In fact, let me tell you, I don't have a real hard time, letting that happen. And then come as you go to be outside the stadium, I reckon, you're taking your own risk. Is that right?
Can you imagine how many tailgates would be set up outside of Brown
Denny
Stadium for people?
And listen, it's already Porter Toilet USA. It's going to be Mecca Porter Toilets outside the stadium.
I mean, can you imagine the advantage Georgia would have, though, starting a quarterback that's never played an SEC game, the Wake Forest transfer?
Yeah.
I think Newman's his name. I mean, no crowd noise. Playing against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, what an advantage that would be for Georgia.
That's a good point. The home field advantage is not going to exist this year if they do that.
Yeah, this will bring a little color in it. If they would let the bands in one south end zone and let the other band in the north end zone, that would be pageantry. That's and just let them in and let the cheerleaders in. Well, you don't need any cheerleaders, but your bands at both ends, they cannot go on the field. That's already a proven deal. I don't think they're going to let any band go on the field.
I guarantee you, there would be thousands of people at that game. There's boxes in Tuscaloosa with $1 million boosters. I guarantee you, they would find a way to be in that stadium watching.
And I can hear them say, "Here's keg beer, cold beer, cold beer, cold beer, cold beer." You reckon they'd have a lot of that going on?
That's the way to watch it.
And then listen to this, and the teams get the revenue.
All these rich people in the luxury suites, you think they're going to be social distancing up in that box?
But the Alabama partisan across the way is not very many this Saturday afternoon. I saw Bill Rice's mom and daddy and Charlie. We played well. There was nobody in the stands, but we still played well. And I hope this video replay today makes
Let me ask you, if you have
money.
no fans in the stands, does it make a difference where you play? So couldn't Alabama play Troy in Troy with no fans?
You are exactly right.
If Bryant Denny is not ready, which it might not be ready by first game, just come to Troy and.
But Alabama has taken
the field will still be 100 yards long and 53 yards wide.
And ladies and gentlemen, we still stop at Jim's Barbecue going south. We're going south. We're going to stop at Jim's Barbecue before we get to Prattville, and then we're going to head on down to Troy from there. Alabama and Troy are supposed to kick off.
I would have said Troy found a way to play UAB.
Exactly right.
UAB lost the game and Troy needed to play. I
mean,
any kind of way to play in-state schools.
Yeah. All right, think about it. That's
a possibility.
Out of the 4 games you're going to miss, 4 non-conference games you're going to miss, you'll allow a team to work its own schedule for 2 games. You'll play a 10 game, but the first 2 can be scheduled among them. What's out there.
Let's get Alabama's schedule and just see how they would have to change it, because I think if they did this, they're going to try to play at least 10 games in the SEC, so they would add another two SEC teams to play. So Alabama right now, if they went to conference only, with the USC game would not happen. The next game's against Georgia State out of the Sun Belt, that wouldn't happen. Then Saban's playing his alma mater, Kent State, that wouldn't happen. And then Dad's favorite game, Tennessee Martin, wouldn't happen.
I don't think they'd miss that.
Basically, as Alabama fans, the only game you with Southern Cal.
That's right.
Those other three were going to be awful.
Yeah, but now
slip Troy into one of those games.
And can you work? Will they be able to work out the SEC schedule where they'll play 9 or 10 games?
Well, they play 8, but Saban for years and years has been pushing for 9, and I think this year you'd have to play 10 because I would think to get to the playoffs you'd have to win 10 games. I don't know if they'd put a team in going 8-0 in the playoffs.
This is Coach Saban. Would you mind your team meeting us over in Tuscaloosa about on Thursday for a game real quick without the fans? Do y'all mind coming over?
It'd be like that that Auburn-Troy basketball game you saw. You were one of 5
Exactly right.
preseason.
I sure did.
Auburn and Troy played a basketball game in Trojan Arena.
Did. And it was
kept score and everything,
officials,
right? Had referees.
SEC officials. It's just like a regular game, and you're right.
How much time would a coach be interested to talk to Chip Lindsey if we could get him on, the next couple of weeks, or one of the coaches, and just say, hey, if we had to change your schedule for you to play in Alabama or in Auburn, would you need just 2 weeks? Would you need a month, to start scouting? I mean, I don't know how that would even work.
Let me tell you something. If they couldn't get ready in 2 weeks, they're conditioning, they're already ready. They're ready. But 2 weeks to get ready for the team to play the game, I think they ought to be able to do that.
Well, I've talked a lot about Alabama and Troy, but Auburn and Troy. I mean, just as big. Yeah.
We'll meet you in Columbus, Georgia, for a game, if you don't mind, with Auburn. No,
how about Auburn and Troy in the famous Crampton Bowl?
Yes, sir. Clement Crampton Bowl. You're exactly right. And because we can't let the fans in, but the marching band.
Johnny Williams probably put that game on.
We'll put the Auburn band at the west side of the stadium and the Troy band on the east
Alabama
side.
And Auburn used to play a lot of different. Auburn played in Columbus, Georgia. They played in Montgomery. Alabama played in Montgomery quite often. They played in Mobile. They played in Birmingham. They played in Tuscaloosa.
No question about it.
The basketball teams move around and play in different. They play University of Alabama, Huntsville, and I think it's good for Alabama or Auburn to play some games somewhere else from time to time, especially under exceptional circumstances like we have this year.
Mike, give us a report on the COVID-19 situation, and of course that's what's holding all of this back. And no question. Now, you folks, especially you folks who are not ball fans like we are, I'm sure you're saying to yourself, what are we arguing about ball, folks, when we're talking about human life? And
in the world, you have 618 cases, and then the big numbers that Bill and I like to talk about is out of those cases, you've got 4,559,000, almost 4,600,000 that are 99%. That's 99% in mild conditions. So that means they're either asymptomatic or just mild conditions. Basically, these people don't even go to the hospital. And then in serious or critical, which is only 1%, is 58,000, almost 59,000 are serious and critical with COVID-19.
Okay.
So that's what you got to look at right here. If you listen to Trump, he says, 99% of the world, is not affected by this. It's the 1% you got to look at. And you're hearing other people talk about that as well.
Well, it's actually low. You say it's 1% of the confirmed cases are serious or critical, but it would be much tinier than that if you divided that by the entire population of the world. Yeah. So it's.
I wonder how many people are struck by lightning and killed every year.
I don't know. I can look that up. But in the United States right now, you have 3,220,000 cases. New cases already this morning. You have 986 new cases already. Total deaths are now at 135, almost at 136,000.
You know what I think is a provocative question, and I'm developing a little column around this. 3.2 million confirmed cases in America. That's a big number. You say, wow. Well, how many people have not had COVID in America? 328 million Americans. One question I have is if this disease is as contagious as we're told, and it is, I think it's very contagious, how could you have only 3 million people who have had it? You see what I'm saying?
There's been several people that have already had it. Like, I mean, we were at a restaurant in Graydon the other night. We ran into our nanny, Megan, and she kept our girls for about 6 months. So into January, my wife and my 2 little girls got just really sick. I mean, they had like fever, had a throw up bug. You know, it seemed like everybody had the flu. The only person that didn't get it was me. And then my nanny at the time, Megan, was keeping our girls. And the next thing I know, Megan's out. She's got 105-degree fever for like 3 or 4 days.
Oh, gosh.
Body aches. She's just like deathly sick. Had to go to the hospital. And she said that, you know, she'd never felt so sick in her life. So her husband had to take her to the hospital. And you know, she got that from our girls and Lee.
Did she have...
And the next thing we know, we talked to her the other night. She said, I want y'all to know, I just found out today I got tested for the antibody. And I had COVID-19, and they're almost positive it was back in January when I went to the hospital.
Oh.
So she had the virus.
I want to talk to her then, because, and I bet she tested negative for regular flu when she went to the hospital.
I tell you what, if she had
Yeah, she did, exactly. Yeah, the same story you hear from everybody, that they tested negative for the flu.
Here's what I'm going to say.
There's a great chance that my family's already had it.
Yeah, that's the point I was getting at, is that a number that would mind boggle everybody have already probably had this virus. 95% of them didn't even know they had the virus.
But the big question out there now, though, is if you've had it once, could you have it again?
And I think you can, Mike. I think you can. Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
This is based on my research. I wonder if the number of cases, the surge in cases we're having right now isn't a lot of people being reinfected. Because I think it started in November and December. That would give people time to, again in July, just like sometimes you get the common cold 2 times in a year. But the antibodies, per studies, they only last in most people about 2 or 3 months. Then they start to fade. So if you had COVID in January or December, I think I had it in January, well, you're protected. You're not going to get it again for about 3 months. But after that, of course you can get it again.
Oh, yeah.
I think that we are having reinfections.
No question about it.
Yeah, I mean, like in Birmingham, I talked to a good buddy of mine the other day, Blake Crow, and he was telling me his daughter, it's either her swim class or dance class, and I think she's around 10 years old, and like 3 or 4 of her friends have it that are 10. Of course, they're asymptomatic and show no signs of sickness or anything, but they even tested positive.
Here's my hypothesis. The peak of this virus might have been in January when the girl that took care of your kids had it, and when I think I had it. I've done the research. Tons of a big spike in the case of influenza-like illness in January and late December. Not everybody that had influenza-like illness had COVID, obviously, but a certain percentage probably did. So let's say they did. It was just unreported. There were no tests. It was a silent COVID going through the country. Well, if those people had it in December or January, I think it's entirely possible that you've got a second wave and it's reinfection of some of these people getting it again in June and July.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of seems like it started all in New York and Washington State, which is both of those, one's on the Atlantic Ocean, one's on the Pacific Ocean, and now it's kind of just like making its way throughout the rest of the country. So that's kind of the way it looks to me. I mean, because you're definitely seeing more cases in the South now than you ever have.
I think that I'm just developing this theory as I talk, and that would explain it. Is that these are reinfections, and it was people that thought they might have the flu back in. That's really, y'all. Let's stop. When do you remember a lot of people in your circle of friends getting sick?
It's January. Everybody I talked to is January.
My wife's a school teacher. She told me once she came back one day in January, and she said half of one of her classes was gone, not there. That's when everybody was getting sick. Right now, we still have all these cases, but I don't know many people that you talk to or run into that say, oh, yeah, I'm sick, so-and-so's in bed for a couple of days. You got positive cases, but they're people that really aren't sick. I mean, if you went to the doctor right now and talked to the doctors, are you getting a lot of people coming in with bad fever and a bad cough and sore throat? I bet they'd say,
That's what I heard.
no.
Yeah. No question about it. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, wear your mask when you're out at the grocery store, when you're at the post office, when you're at the drugstore, where you're out in the public. Try to distance yourself at least 6 feet. I'm going to move over a little bit more now. There we are, this closer to 6 feet. But do what they tell you to do, and it's been proven that this can make a difference. This is a comfortable mask. This is an easy one to put on, and it's comfortable. It's light, and I recommend this. I could wear this all day long. Some of them now, I was at the doctor's office the other day, and they were wearing masks, and gosh, they made an awful sound. And it sounded, I said, y'all don't have the virus, do you? Because y'all sure do sound rough, but it's just the way you breathe through some of these heavy masks.
I wear them from time to time, and I always feel like I'm stopped up, and I might have lung issues going back to my COVID case in January, which I think I had. But I will say that I feel it feels restricted, and I don't feel I can breathe as well with that. Maybe it's the way my nose or sinuses are, but there is a distinct difference when I'm wearing that mask and not. And when I take it off, I feel better.
Yeah. But let me tell you something.
We're already having more breaking news that the first state that officially canceled football for 2020, this is going to be high school football, will be New Mexico, which I would not think there would be a lot of cases in New Mexico.
New Mexico, you're right.
New Mexico has canceled high school football. Also, high school news, of course, everybody will remember the great Mike Dean, who led Charles Henderson to the state championship, and I have to admit, one of the smartest football guys I'd ever met, a high school coach, when I used to do his coaching show with Dad. Dean has now left Evergreen and is going to be the defensive coordinator for a guy we know very well, Scott Riles.
Oh, boy.
So he will be with Riles at Baldwin County High School. Coach Dean is only 49 years old, and he's apparently been living in Daphne and driving to Evergreen the last 3 years. And basically just said in the article that, he wanted to get closer to home. This is where he grew up, this is where he's from, and, that he's more than happy to be a defense coordinator, that it would take a special situation, to become a head coach again one day. But Dean's a great coach. I don't care what anybody says about him.
No question about it. And Riles is a great offensive coach. Look out for Baldwin County. Look out for him, Mike.
His son will be the offensive coordinator that coached at Charles Henderson and at Lee Verne.
Yeah.
So Ryan Riles.
Yeah, Ryan Riles.
That's interesting news.
And he's got one son that's a wide receiver here at Troy, Mike, and transferred from Southern Mississippi.
Yeah, he got a 6 year, so he'll play again this year.
Well, good. I'm glad. What happens to these kids? Here it is. Troy looks good. I thought on paper Troy looks real good, but and then you start looking at their basketball program. Buddy, it looks real good. You look at their baseball program. They got a huge camp going on right now. It's been going on for almost a week now, and some of the finest high school players in the state are going up against each other, and all the scouts, baseball scouts, are able to be there and so forth. It's a huge showcase going on out at Troy University. I don't know if it ends today, but it was going on into the night on the hottest field in America, maybe. That artificial turf with 90-degree temperatures and that asphalt-based artificial turf. Don't you know that it's got to be the hottest place in the world? And these kids probably wouldn't tell you that, but I tell you what, when it gets hot and on that artificial turf, you can't go on it barefooted. I'll tell you that.
Also, Charles Henderson, fired their baseball coach kind of abruptly. We had him on the show, John Gleschik, the guy that played.
Yeah, that's right.
At Huntington.
Yeah.
And he'd won state championships at that Charles Henderson got fired. I don't know what happened at Charles Henderson. Of course, they hired Chase.
Well, we don't know for sure they got fired, so we probably shouldn't mention that
Well,
firing.
he was not asked to come back.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That was public knowledge.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can't feel bad for this guy because now he's the new head baseball coach at Pinson Valley.
Oh,
That's
God.
cool.
Yeah, a team probably one of the most up and coming high school athletic programs in the state.
So apparently this guy's still well thought of.
Oh, he's a good. Hey, Charles Simpson would have never hired him if he wasn't a good coach, and I liked him myself. And but you know, and he was up there. That's a great not recruiting area, but it's a great area to coach at, and I'm proud for him.
You know who the head coach is? You know, when Nix left to go to Central Phoenix City, you know, the new head football coach is a former great Alabama player, Sam Shade.
Oh,
He's
really?
the coach at Pinson Valley. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, let me ask you this:
Sam Shea was a great player.
Yeah. Where did the Pinson coach go? You said they went. Where did you say he went?
He took over for DeBose at Central.
I didn't realize that. Now, where is DeBose now?
DeBose is in Valdosta.
He's at Valdosta High School.
Well, no, Probst is at Valdosta. DeBose is at the county school, so they're going head to head.
Oh boy, two great coaches going at it. But
And you know what else they're doing is they're double dipping.
oh yeah, you're right. Retiring from the state of Alabama and working in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, so I would imagine DeBose probably makes $130,000, maybe I think DeBose makes $150,000.
Yeah, it makes a
he's
bunch.
getting Alabama State retirement. I mean, he makes probably $200,000 a year easily.
No. Yeah, we were talking about your salary, Coach. A good friend of mine. Let me tell you, Jamie DeBose out of Opp, Alabama, is a great guy. He's a cousin to Mike DeBose, and he's born and raised in Opp, Alabama, and went up through the ranks. And I'm thinking our guy at the other school, Mike, that DeBose might have coached under him, but DeBose actually coached under the UAB coach.
Yeah, DeBose is a Clark guy.
He's a Clark guy.
You know, DeBose went to Troy. His best friend's Neil Armstrong. They play golf together all the time.
Oh yeah, I know they're good friends, and but DeBose is a great guy. I'm a good friend of his. I've known him for ages, and I really have enjoyed our relationship. At one time, now this great coach, I would have to say right now in these states.
Did he play college football?
No. Well, he might have. I don't know.
He just went to school at Troy.
But I'll tell you something about him. And Faulkner down at Enterprise was the same way. You know, he went. Never played a lot of college football. It doesn't matter. You know, a lot of great coaches come out of there. But I would say in these United States of America, no town, and I'll go down with my thoughts here. Have two better football coaches at their two high schools than these two. Of course, they're the two best, and a lot of people think, and I've heard it over and over and over, that a lot of people think Georgia plays better high school football than any state in the union. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
You know, Texas is always in there, and of course, Florida is, of course, definitely in there.
Per capita, they produce more good football players than anybody else.
And Valdosta High School, when they play each other, and I'm gonna call Coach DuBose when they play each other and talk about it and so forth. And I might even drive down there and watch the game. And
Forrest Lee made the point that, well, Georgia's a richer state. They have more money to give to athletics, so they have more assistant coaches. They pay their coaches better. And so all of that eventually affects the players, right? If you get better coaches.
In a 25-mile radius of Atlanta, Georgia, you could talk about 5 to 6 million, maybe even more than that, people. In a 25-mile, maybe in a 50-mile radius.
That's as big as the population of Alabama.
A 50-mile radius of Atlanta probably has 7 or 8 million people, wouldn't you say?
At least 5 or 6, I bet.
Exactly, and of course that area is just so heavily populated. What I'm saying here, you could have the best program in the country and just recruit from that one area because, but as far as high school talent,
the population of Metro Atlanta, is that circumference you just described, exceeds that of the entire state of Alabama. Which Alabama's population is 4.9 million people.
One of the things that concerns me right now, especially in these big cities, they're leaning more towards soccer than they are football, and a lot of folks are going away from football because of the injury situation.
I wonder in 10, 20 years from now that we might have college football, but it might not be anything like it is now. People are getting turned off. You got these head issues and helmet and liability issues. It's expensive. The players are becoming more like NFL players, transferring all the time, and now they want to pay the players.
Yeah.
I think, you put all these things together and skip forward 20 years, and you're not going to see near the passion for college football or high school football
I'm gonna throw
that you do
something
now.
I'm going to throw something out to you. What's the hottest thing in baseball right now? Travel ball. Ladies and gentlemen, I predict that one day we'll have club football. It will not even be a high school sport. It'll be a club sport, just like travel ball is not a recreation sport.
Or like AAU basketball.
It's parents get together. I think it's coming to that one day where you have a club football.
You might be right. You've heard of this IMG Academy?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
These boarding schools that are really sponsored by the sports agents.
Well,
right?
first of all, it costs so much money, and then of course insurance and liabilities and all that start coming into play. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's my opinion, and of course it's my opinion and a lot of other people's opinion to wear this mask this morning. And this is very comfortable. I don't have any problem with it. In fact, it matches what I got on. But if Rice does start coughing, I can.
Well, I'm real self-conscious when
I can protect
if
myself.
I cough, I'm going to turn my head, Mike. So you got.
Well, the other day I was at Red Schoolhouse, and a guy walked by my table and coughed just like this right over my table.
I'm going to go like this, but
I started to snatch him up, but I can't do that. But if I was 40 years younger, I would probably snatched him up.
I was reading an article about Steve Garrett's son too, Braxton Garrett.
Yeah, tell us about him.
He's got a chance to make the roster with the Marlins. He was going to be in Double-A, but they canceled the minor league season, so there's no Montgomery Biscuits, there's no Birmingham Barron games. But Garrett's got a chance to to make the roster with the Marlins. He's 22. He's pretty much missed a year and a half due to Tommy John surgery. So he's only 22 and still got a chance to be in the majors maybe this year. So even being out for a year and a half with Tommy John, he's still showing great potential. Of course, when you're a first-round pick, they're spending a lot of money on you.
Exactly.
So hopefully they can make it up this year.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about all this. Do you know that when you get to be 23 and 24 years old, you get to be too old to be drafted? Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's what happened to Dennison. Joey Dennison, his senior year at Troy, ladies and gentlemen, from right here in Troy, Alabama, on Murphy Street, born and raised, was considered one of the top hitters in college baseball.
I know.
But the pros, when they were looking at him, they saw that he was married and 23, 24 years old. Avant, the great one, buddy, how good was Avant, Mike? And he is 24 years old, and he's still trying to make a team.
Well, he was in the minors with the Mets. I think he was like a 32nd round draft.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's out of pro ball now. I want to say
he might be. Pro ball's canceled. So nobody's even playing.
Mike,
in the minor league systems.
And when I say this about him, and ladies and gentlemen, I think
professional baseball starts in 2 weeks.
Are these minor league kids that were the 32nd round pick? Do they even get paid?
They get a signing bonus.
So that's it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So if they cancel that minor league season, they ain't getting any salary.
I would imagine they get a little bit. They have to get paid, to be on a roster. I guess they get paid for whatever city they're playing in, and
this is all our
opinion. I think
opinion.
it's a whole lot if you're playing like at a small single A. There's like 3 or 4 single A's before you get to Double-A, and rookie ball.
Mike, something I was going to bring up about Avant, and Chandler Avant went on and had a great career at Alabama, and they loved him up there. He could run, he could throw, he could do it all.
He got injured.
That's right, and he could run.
His career.
You're right, and he could do all these things and do it well. But how good, he did not play high school football. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy might have been the fastest kid to ever come out of the private schools, Mike. He's that fast and was strong and relentless, but he held away from football to play baseball, and more kids are doing that now, is playing the one sport. But how good would he have been?
He was a starting shortstop at Alabama for I think 3 straight years.
Yeah, exactly right.
He still had a great career
And could really run and was a great
what
athlete.
you talked about with John Ramage yesterday, and all credit to John, he was a great interview yesterday.
He was, yeah.
You know, the Mario White son that's already committed to Florida State. I mean, for him to be in the top 100 of prospects in the United States of America at 96 is unheard of.
And there's just thousands of kids that play the sport, and he's in the top 100.
Is he got another year? Does he got another year of eligibility?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he'll play next year.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And he's also the quarterback on the football team, too.
Well, I look forward to watching this kid.
Yeah. I tell you what, Pike's going to be
He's already
loaded.
committed to Florida State, and Nelson kid's already committed to Auburn. You know, they're going to have no telling how many scouts watching these games next year.
And ladies and gentlemen, everybody's saying, oh, gosh, how in the world could Auburn want a commitment as a 10th grader? Well, all the kid did was go to Fort Myers, Florida last weekend and play against some of the top players in the country. And the kid, this little 10th grade kid, was named most valuable player in the whole tournament, struck out 13 batters in the 2 times he pitched. And he is quite a player.
If you've got talent, they're going to find you, and they know who it is.
Yeah, they know. You're right, and especially the guy that recruits for Auburn. He was a pretty good player himself. Let's see who we got here, right here. We're going to put you on hold, my friend. Good morning. You're on Today in L.A. How you doing?
Max, how are you this morning?
Max Howell, how did we get you this morning, my friend?
Well, I tried to call you last night, Mike. There's a lot of stuff breaking.
All right, tell us about it. Hold on a minute. Let me bring Mike in here, though. We got to do that. I'll put you on hold. Okay, we'll do it again here. Right. There we go. We got both on here. Mike, guess who's on the line? Max Howell has joined us with some breaking news.
Oh, God. What's this going to be, Max?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is coming from one of the leading football analysts in the country, Max Howell.
Mike, I stayed on the phone I did 6 radio shows yesterday, from all over the Southeast. And, of course, we took the model that the Big Ten released and look for the Pac-12, excuse me, not the Pac, look for the Big 12 and the ACC, and probably the SEC to release theirs today or tomorrow. Looks like it's going to be a 10-game schedule. They'll start, and what does that do? I was just on the Will Sampson in Tuscaloosa just then, and the first thing they asked about what happened to Troy with NC State supposed to come in. What about their road trips? I think they got Tennessee down the road. How does that affect those schools? I don't think those problems have been worked out yet, but the conferences, it looks like they're going to make a stand to start with. I think we're going to get the rest of that released today and tomorrow. They're going to go to a 10-game schedule. I did pick up a sample schedule for Alabama already, and they only end up with Florida and Tennessee back-to-back in the regular schedule.
So Alabama's going to add Florida?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
No, Alabama's not add them. The conferences add them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but they'll play Florida. Yeah, I mean, what do you hear, Max? I mean, like I told Dad and Bill to start the show, I mean, there's a realistic chance that Alabama's first game will be September 19th against Georgia in Tuscaloosa.
You just got it scheduled right here. That's going to be Ole Miss.
Speak through the phone now.
You're breaking up.
This is the projected Alabama schedule.
All right, let's listen to it.
Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas A&M, and
We're not
Max,
getting
you're
it.
breaking up. Can you do that again?
yeah, hold on just a
All right,
minute.
here we go. Now you sound good right now.
One more time. Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee. Open date, LSU, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Auburn.
Boy, oh boy.
Alabama adds Florida and Vanderbilt to their existing schedule. And
Right, yes.
And 10 games, and no games besides the SEC games, Max?
Just SEC games. That's everything else will be cut off, and that's the five power conferences going to that. 3 of them announced yesterday.
Oh boy.
I knew that they would have to play at least 10 games to be qualified to get to the playoffs. I would think.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, this really hurts. This hurts people. Well, you know, 'cause the conference games will be fun.
This is awful news for Troy, but then maybe now Troy can pick up a UAB,
Right.
you know, on one of those, you know, games that they're going to lose. You know, maybe they can pick up a Southern Miss. It might work out.
I'll tell you what the long-range plans from people I talked to yesterday is that the Troy, the UAB, the Southern Miss, that will become a different level of competition. It's going to be the Power 5, and I think we're going to see a disillusionment of the NCAA over the next 2 or 3 years because of this.
Yeah.
They're going to go to the Power 5 conferences, and that'll be the top national championship. Then the next level down, with the Troys and Southern Miss and UABs and all, they'll have their own national championship opportunities, a own playoff division,
Oh,
just
boy.
like Division II.
Oh gosh.
We're going to see a whole new restructure
Oh gosh.
out of this thing coming up.
All we build on and everything could go down the drain because we all are so happy with 1A.
As long as there's a line in Vegas on Troy games, I mean, and even if there were the Power 5 schools and the non-Power 5 schools, you still got a lot of good teams Troy can still play.
Well, I guess they could still play a couple of these.
You could go play Houston. You could go play Memphis. You could go play, you know, Central Florida.
But I think the Alabamas and the Auburns can still play a couple of games against the smaller schools, right? If they,
I mean, I don't know. It might be mandatory. You play only big Power 5 schools.
It is. It's only going to be Power School. That they're going to separate. This is the next step. What we've heard for years.
Some of these folks are loving it. These big schools are loving this.
Well, you know, Saban's always wanted this.
Right, but let me tell you who's loving it. It's television.
Oh yeah.
Because there'll be no more. But here's the next question, and this is why nothing's in stone yet, because all the contracts have got to be rewritten. But you know, what about that? Means every week you're gonna have an Alabama, Florida. You're gonna have an Albany, Georgia. You're gonna have a high-profile team in this part of the country. First of all, the ads prices will go up. We're gonna see something to the tune of pay-per-view because of the lack of number of people that can go to a stadium. There's all kinds of things have got to be worked out. And just remember, guys, all we know is what's happening today. That may change, you know, in a week from now or 2 weeks from now. But I find it really interesting. As soon as the Big Ten made their announcement yesterday, I had phone calls. My phone blew up. I had phone calls from half the folks around the country in the major offices wanting to know what we had heard about any other play, particularly the SEC. And of course, the SEC was reluctant to come out. I look for them to announce today or tomorrow that they're going to fall in line with the conference-only games because we already got 3 that are announced. And the one we have not heard from is the Pac-12. Of course, we don't know about Oregon and California and Washington. You know, that's hot spots either way.
well, it sounds like the Alabama-USC game then is off.
I think it is. It certainly looks like it. And Ole Miss and Taylor, Auburn, they're playing Oregon.
But you know, you look at this, Max. The SEC having to play 10 SEC games. Is that how many you would end up playing? 10. Hey, I don't know if any team in the country could, any team in that league could go undefeated with that kind of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's going to have one of the best teams they've ever had.
Oh yeah.
Very true.
But then LSU, Georgia,
Well, Alabama's got to play Georgia, Florida, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M.
Oh gosh.
See, the Big Ten didn't announce schedules yesterday. They didn't announce. So when will the actual schedules be announced? Is what I want to know.
I think the thing they got to do, Michael, is they got to get the contracts worked out. That's because all these schools have got contracts, and that's going to be that's the biggest holdup right now. That'll come first, and the second will be TV coverage on contracts with the individual school. My question immediately was, revenue coming to the networks, to the ESPN, ABC, and CBS, did they raise the amount of contributions going back to the schools? For example, the distribution of TV money is done in Destin for the SEC every Memorial Weekend. Well, this past year, every school got $43 million.
That's right.
Well, let's just say that they go to possibility of 50 to 60 million next year. So, because of raised revenue, do the contracts allow them to share that?
Yeah.
Those are the things I think that's going to have to be worked out before any of this thing. We're concerned about games starting to play and competition on the field. There's a lot more to it, guys, than just.
Well, what do you think
Right.
about fans in the stands? Are they going to allow them, or?
The biggest number I've heard, Bill, is 50%. That's the biggest number I've heard. Most of it 25 to 35%.
Well, let me tell you what I hope.
I wonder if Tennessee would have to pay Troy off for not having that game, because that was going to help Troy's revenue.
Those are the things that's going to hurt. The offsetting factor is the restructuring of the conferences, where Southern Miss, Troy, UAB, those schools come into their own conference, and they have a separate division or a separate playoff.
Yeah, but that goes back to the old. I hate that because that's going to.
I read an article earlier. We talked about the merging of Conference USA and the Sun Belt. They've talked about that already.
Well, and then at the same time, though, it's meant so much to me to be Division 1A, and then the below us is 1AA. Well, what you would do, you would have a super conference, then a 1A, and then a 1AA, something sort of like that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's the way it looks like it'll look like.
Yeah, just like Max talks about, Johnny Williams talks about, though, how many of these schools will survive? Some of these smaller schools, there might be as many football programs.
Yeah, no question.
And then
about
there
it.
might not be as many athletic teams total, because there are going to be a lot of. That's already happening. Schools dropping sports. I just saw that Stanford University dropped 11 team sports this year. 11.
But they had 36.
But they had too many, but they got rid of 11.
I can see.
I've been a little about men and women's fencing.
Yeah.
But we can all live without it. But it's still sad for these athletes that are.
I'll tell you what. One of the recommendations is the non-revenue sports go to a club level.
That's right. Well, we talked about club. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
They're all kind of. But it's all going to be based back to the individual philosophies, the conference I think the reformation of the conferences, and if they can add, if you have to drop down, if they do add another playoff system, much like Division II's got and Division III as well, they've already got their playoff system in line.
And I can't see this affecting basketball at all. I would think basketball could remain the same. What do you think?
Well,
I would think.
Well, yeah, I think that's to be determined, Mike, down the road. But when you get to anything past football, it's going to be all about money.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
That's
It'd be interesting also if other than the playoffs, will any bowl games take place this year?
Well, I think I think there were 43 scheduled to be filled, bowl slots to be.
Oh yeah, there's 40 bowls.
Yeah, I think 43 this year. So if that's the case, of course, look, every year there's 4 or 5 of those that don't survive. They don't make enough money. The teams make the travel. They don't get paid. There's a horror story there to be told about some of those smaller bowls anyway. But I think all that will be thrown into the mix over the next few weeks, and I think we'll get to hear discussion from it.
Thank you for calling, Max. This is huge news. We're talking about things that we thought might happen in 10 or 15 years in sports happening suddenly, like in using really COVID-19 as the trigger to do all these changes at once.
It really is, and I think what it does, guys, with massive change coming, where a definitive definition has to be given, they got a reason or an excuse for that because of the virus. Nobody wants to risk the health of fans or players. I mean, that's a common element across the country. So I think there is a reasonable reason for restructuring, and I think most of the public will buy that.
Yeah, exactly. I could understand it. Let me ask you this: what would you think the starting date would be? It'd have to be almost into October, wouldn't you think?
It's like September 19th.
Well, Florida plays Kentucky on the 12th. That may be the earliest.
Okay.
I think that's the earliest that I've heard yesterday. But the whole conference will be, if in fact they choose this model to go with, everybody will crank up that next weekend, the 18th or 19th.
Yeah, I tell you, some winners in this is financially got to be the Vanderbilts and the lower echelon SEC teams that get the same amount of revenue.
Well, I tell you, it's tough to go through a conference as strong as the SEC playing 10 games. So one thing right off the bat, you're going to have great teams that are going to have 2 or 3 losses, right? Is that going to be is that going to be held against them in this playoff selection? I mean, because all conferences are not equal. A 2-loss team in the SEC
you're also going to have Notre Dame. I've already read they'll play a total ACC schedule.
Right.
They would have to. You're right. You're right. Independent. You couldn't do this.
They're already going to play 6 ACC games already.
Yeah.
I think that's where the conference will end up having to get their 10 games from, to tell you the truth. I think that hasn't been exposed yet, but look for that to come.
Well, they picked 4 teams for this playoffs, and all anybody cares about is the playoffs and the national championship, which I don't like that either. But, I mean, you are going to have an SEC champion most likely that could have 2 losses, and that's before going to the darn conference championship game.
Clemson's going to go undefeated.
Yeah, but Bill, you guys got to remember, don't let your thinking get clouded what's happened in the past. This is all you. We're going to get a whole new set of guidelines for this thing.
But what I'm saying is, do you think that they would pit a 2 or 3 loss SEC team into a 14 playoff? I just caught Alabama would have to play Auburn, great team. LSU, great team. Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida.
They're going to take the conference champ. They're going to take the conference championship if they got 3 losses. It ain't going to matter.
Okay.
They're going to take the conference championship from the Power 5. I can tell you that now. And then probably end up adding 3 more at-large teams.
The biggest thing would be where Alabama plays Florida.
And how do they?
That has not been. That's not been. That hasn't been released yet.
So you're going to have one.
Earlier, there's possibility no fans. So I mean, Georgia's going to be starting a new quarterback. He played at Wake Forest. We have Brian Dan Stabler on the 19th of September. He's not going to have to deal with any fan noise. Probably.
Well, and remember too, they got 3 or 4 offensive linemen they got to replace. And that's the same thing for Auburn. Yeah. We talk about all the quarterbacks you want to talk about, but if Bo Nix and the kid from Wake Forest going penciled in to be the starter of Georgia, if they got to run for their life, all bets are off the table. Yeah. Let me tell you that right.
Hey, do you got Auburn scheduled, Max?
No, the only one I heard I got released was Alabama. Okay. That was just a projection.
Okay.
But here, guys, here's what's coming out of that. They aren't going to overload. They're going to let the top teams. Well, let me quickly tell you. Right now, it looks like, based on all the prognosticators I talked to, in the East it's going to be Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Mostly in that order. For the West, it's going to be Alabama, Auburn, or Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. So they'll take the Florida, Georgia, and the Alabama, Auburn, or LSU, and be sure they cross divisions with competition at that level. And they'll give them probably one good team and one lower division team.
Yeah, so you're going to have the East and the West, and I would imagine there'll still be a SEC championship game in Atlanta.
No doubt. I think no doubt about that. I think that'll be.
So basically, Alabama and Auburn could still play 11 games and then play 2 playoff games.
Right.
So there's a chance you still play 13 games.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And then if you'll think about this too, I could see that football tries to stand alone. Football would stand alone among those super teams, and the revenue would stay within that, just in the sport of football. And then basketball and baseball and the other sports would would continue on as is.
I think it's interesting what Max said about maybe these minor sports becoming club levels. That means the athletic department doesn't have to pay for all these scholarships, pay for all these coaches and Title IX stuff, and just let it be football, basketball, baseball, maybe girls softball,
and maybe track and field, maybe.
Exactly.
You know good and well, Alabama and Saban. I mean, if this happens in the next couple of days, you're going to hear Saban come out because he's going to be the main guy they're going to look for as far as coaches.
Well, they need to, because he is very articulate, and he's always put a lot of thought into what he says.
Well, it's going to be interesting.
In some aspects, this is really exciting if you're a huge SEC fan and a Power 5 fan, but I'm definitely upset if you're a Troy fan.
I am too. Everything we work
for
for.
Troy in the future at all.
One thing I see coming out of this in a hurry is expanding the playoffs, because you're going to have way too many losses for way too many good teams to keep these teams out of national championship contention. I mean, you're going to have the Ohio States and Michigans are going to have a huge advantage playing the soft schedules and and the Clemsons compared to these teams in the SEC that are just going to beat the slop out of each other.
Yeah. But now another thing, Bowles. Remember Bowles and ESPN. Max, where's that? What happens there?
Johnny Williams can tell you that.
I think what's going to happen, guys, is this thing starts to shake out. And remember what we're talking about. This is all we know this morning. This thing may change next week.
Yeah, This is a big
It'll probably come down to they don't even play at all when it's all said and done.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So, but as of today, it looks like this is the first step in securing the Power 5 conferences in the division. And I'm going to say outside the NCAA, I think we're going to see a complete revision of the NCAA. And the next level down will be the Troyes and Southern Miss, and then they'll end up with their own division. They'll end up with their own conferences and their own championship playoffs, and probably their own bowl tie-ins as well.
Yeah, that's right.
What did old Wimp Sanderson think of this?
Oh man, he was all over it this morning. I mean, he was all over it. I called him last night and found out what they were talking about this morning, and they had already gotten some wind of it, but they didn't have any details because he had not had time to really search it out.
But I think this is a football thing. This is a football thing. It's got to be looked at as a football thing.
It is, no doubt about that.
I don't think you can involve basketball or baseball in it.
And those universities, are going to be tagged later down the road as football U.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do, because that's where the money is now. I still look for the Dukes and those teams to remain very strong in basketball. Then we got the baseball programs, most geared in the South as well. So I think the whole revision is what's intriguing to me, and how they get in and out of contracts to make it at least halfway equitable to everybody involved, in particular contracts that are already in place.
Yeah, you're going to get the lawyers involved, buddy, because, there's something called a force majeure or a act of nature, that little clauses written into contracts that let you get out of a contract. Does COVID qualify that, so Tennessee doesn't have to pay Troy $1.1 million this year?
Yeah.
Rice, you made a good comment. I wish they would have said they could play a conference-only schedule and only teams within your state. So in Ohio, there's probably 8 or 9 Division I programs. Alabama, you got UAB, you got South Alabama, you got Troy. I wish that they would have let them play at least 2 teams within the state as part of these rules as well. But I guess that's not going to happen.
Well, we don't know though, Michael. That may, that may be an alternative. Depends on how much backlash they get. Again, how the contracts fall and what the legal ease has to say about it. We've got so many, questions out there. Remember, this is just the second day.
Do you think that?
If Alabama's going to play Georgia on the 19th, don't you think Saban would love to play a game on the 12th against South Alabama or Troy to have at least one game beforehand?
They would love to, particularly not having spring training on top of that. But
we know Alabama's not going to play UAB because they're the same school system.
Right. But Michael, just remember, Georgia's at a bigger disadvantage
about it. And I bet your face masks are going to come into play too. You're going to be wearing a face mask if you go to a ball game, probably.
Well, yeah, I think it depends on the numbers, and certainly they'll have all kind of restrictions about attendance and face mask and distances and all that.
You know what, though? I still think this is kind of a farce on some levels. Everything that's saying safety motivates all this. No college football player whatsoever is at risk of dying from COVID-19. It just ain't going to happen. These young people are not at risk of this disease.
But you know what, Mike? You let one kid slip by that we lose him, that he passes away. Then the whole system will erupt. Look, and we lose 3 or 4 or 5 every year at the high school level, maybe 1 or 2 at the college level, and nationally every year.
Yeah, the fatalities will be from broken necks and paralysis. That's the risk of the fatalities.
Heat stroke too during the
Heat
summer.
stroke, yeah.
Well, Max, I imagine these folks going to be talking about this all weekend. They're going to have special sessions going on, don't you think?
Oh, no doubt. Look, they're all meeting.
So listen, on Monday, Max, if there's a possibility, we'd love for you to call in and let us know something.
Yeah, if I pick up any, I'll be on top of it all week long, I'm sure, just for people calling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll be happy to call in on Monday.
But now, only thing that bothers me is that you're usually cooking on Sunday afternoon. What's for dinner?
I don't. Right now, that's on the back burner, Mike.
Boy, all those buddies of yours, those boys, they come out of the swamps to find out what's happening with their LSU Tigers.
You know, Michael Amos makes another point that I think needs reiterating is that, Max, what do you think? You keep pushing back the season, you have all these variables and concerns. Don't you think it's very possible that a lot of these star players are going to say, I ain't playing this season, I'm not risking it, I'm going to go straight to the NFL draft?
That's right. What do you think, Max?
Gauge that day by day, guys. Whatever's going on at that particular time, that's what we'll talk about. Because it's so volatile right now. And, with so many people trying to make a decision, and there's no consensus other than the Big Ten came out yesterday, said 10-game in conference. The Big 12 followed, and the ACC followed, and I looked at the SEC to follow.
Oh, the Big 12 and the ACC have already followed on that?
Yeah, they announced that last night.
And like you said, you do it by conferences.
I was reading that today. I thought they were going to make an announcement today. Is that official?
So all you Alabama fans that were planning to go to Dallas, get your money back on those airplane tickets and room reservations.
Exactly.
Well, I say to you, the discussion we having this morning is what we know as of now. That may change today to not, however, because again,
exactly.
Facts and too many major decisions that involve too many people across the country. Look, when college football makes the CNBC financial news that come on at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that was a lead story this morning, then you know it's a big deal. And it wasn't the NFL, guys, it was college football.
All right.
I imagine this is huge news out in Vegas, too. Boy, they're having to adjust all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
For all the awards, the Heisman, the playoffs, chances, teams, they always do before the season projections on how many wins certain teams are going to have. Man, that's going to be crazy out there.
Yeah, it really. Matter of fact, some people have probably already made bets on, the number of wins the team or the hot. Yeah, and you'd have to recalibrate those odds.
That's why they call it gambling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're in one of the states that has sports books. You're in Mississippi, so it's big news where you are.
All right, the SEC.
I got my contacts right there with them too, guys. I'll tell you.
All right, I got something very important here. I believe they'll do it by conferences if they do it. So SEC will definitely be a super conference. Big Ten, the Big 8, the ACC. All right, what is anybody else? What are other conferences?
It's the Pac-12 12, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. That's your Power
That's
Five.
it.
That's your Power Five. So you would stay. I believe you would stay within the Power Five. That would give
Now,
Troy.
what happens now is, does somebody come get Notre Dame, which would probably be the ACC?
Yeah, they're gonna have to
Does
get
somebody
him.
come BYU, because they're independents. And do you make some of these conferences even bigger before you go Power Five? Does Houston go Power Five? Does Memphis go Power Five? Does Central Florida go Power Five? You're going to lose some other schools too.
Yeah, that is important. What happens to the Conference USA? Or like Central Florida? Central Florida would.
The next level. That's going to be the next level down, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But you know, the
okay.
financial hit.
You don't think any of those guys will try to jump and get into it?
Yeah, they better.
These conferences will expand.
They better. They're gonna.
It's going to depend on, first of all, the guidelines that's written. That's first. The second is about the money. Can Central Florida put up $100 million budget? I don't think so.
No, I don't
I don't
know.
know. They probably can.
They got what, 70,000 students?
Yeah, they can.
Well, if they could charge, if they charge them, $1,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Another $1,000.
All we're talking about is the survival of a lot of athletic programs, probably, because I think you take away these two big paychecks that the Troys and Southern Mississippi's get a year, $1 million payouts typically now.
Tennessee would probably be $1.5 million.
All right, so it's $2.5 million then. You take $2.5 million out of an athletic budget like Troy, and that's big news. I mean, that's hard to overcome.
Guys, Bill, you're using a comparison that's not going to be. The comparison is if they take that out, then everybody they compete with has had that taken out also. They have a larger conference. They got shorter no travel expense. Recruiting's reduced down. There's 100 things that happen to you that justify that. You can't use traditional thinking with minus $2.5 million. That doesn't make sense. That's apples and oranges.
No, I think it does.
I know you're the legendary sports announcer in Atlanta, Birmingham. You've been all over the place. I mean, I can't imagine what
West
the radio
Florida.
shows are going to be like today. I bet you would love to be sitting in a radio station today taking calls on this.
Michael, I did 6 radio shows yesterday.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying. I mean, can you imagine people calling in shows today, Jocks and Birmingham and
Well,
some
Mike,
sports stations?
our guys on WTVF in Troy starting at 2:00 today till 4, till 6. Did you know that? Feinbaum is on Troy radio
Feinbaum doesn't even talk about
TV,
sports anymore. It's pretty much a political show.
and he's on TV today. So I mean. No, I think he's going. Hey, Max,
I'll tell you, he'll be must watch today.
Feinbaum will say, "Forget the COVID-19. I got to do this." Don't you think? Well, that's what Feinbaum's going to have on his
I
mind.
used to go head-to-head against him in Birmingham. I used to listen to both shows.
I know it. That's right. So, Max.
You remember the reason the station I was with at that time, they tried to work a merger and let me be the lead-in show to Paul.
I remember that. Everybody from Jocks was starting to go to your show. That's right.
Exactly right. And the only reason we didn't is that the SEC network came in and took Paul away and gave him $3 million a year and took him out of the marketplace.
Yeah.
He now makes $5 million a year.
This is Max Howell along with Mike Amos, Bill Rice Jr., and Mike Amos Sr. Speaking to you from our headquarters in Troy, Alabama on South Brundy Street. And Facebook. Hey, that's what you need to. Hey, listen, forget about all the rest of these folks. Get on Facebook.
What does ESPN say about all this? What do they say? Follow the money.
No, they've had no release yet. The guys, they won't until Disney tells them it's okay to do that, because Disney is actually putting the bill for ESPN right now.
The Disney own ESPN. Disney does own ESPN.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the reason the ESPN is still in play, guys.
Okay.
ESPN owns ABC too.
Yeah.
No, Disney owns ABC.
So Max, Johnny Williams would be a good guy to talk to today.
Say it again, Mike. I'm sorry.
Johnny Williams would be a good person for you to talk to and get some info today, probably.
Right. I'll do my best to reach out to him. I I've had 3 calls since I've talked to y'all.
I know it. And listen, thank you so much for your
We
time,
got
my
breaking
friend.
news from Max Howell that the SEC will announce sometime soon that they'll play only a conference schedule. So
Expanded,
we'll see
but an
what happens
expanded
this week.
conference schedule.
Yeah, well, it'll be a 10-game schedule, all SEC games. I guess that's the best way to say it.
That's the headline. Thank you so much, Max.
And thank you, guys. Always my pleasure.
Appreciate it, my friend.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good one. And hope that you have a good one. What a show, ladies and gentlemen. And you can watch it again today or tell your friends about us at 1:30 today. We'll come right back on with this same show and find out what is going on in college football.
Well,
Are we looking at a Super 5, Mike? I don't know, but we'll find out.
Well, I mean, you're looking at a Power 5 to break away from the NCAA. And I don't know how that's going to be policed, you know, how there's going to be rules and regulations if that happens. But I don't know. Let's just hope there's football. That's all I care about this season.
Exactly right. And hope you have a great weekend. And we'll see you bright and early Monday morning for Today in L.A. Have a good one.
We've been doing business the right way for 31 years, and now we've approached a year at the all-new Bill Jackson Ford. But don't take our word for it. We feel our customers express it the best.
I would recommend Bill Jackson to friends and family. Environment was just friendly.
It's a short drive from anywhere.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
A personal touch, a high level of trust.